Well, I think here we are sitting in a Frank Gehry building, okay, and the dialogue between having my father's architecture being shown in a Frank Gehry building is, to me, very exciting, because I think that they share a very similar approach towards architecture. That architecture has power to change your perception of the world, fundamentally. Whether you're interested in monumentality or whether you're interested in some other aspect of architecture, it's all just architecture, right? I mean, ultimately, these are very, very serious people of great serious intent. They want to use their art to its maximum possible impact. Kahn does it in his way, Frank Gehry does it in his way. They're both enormously powerful. And to see them both in the same place like this in some kind of dialogue is terribly exciting to me. I think that one of the great things about this show is that it's not simply showing what we already know about Louis Kahn. That's why I'm interested to see you go through this. I think people already kind of have they kind of put him in a box, and they say, oh, he's the guy who did monumentality, in the second half of the 20th century. Well, that's so limited. It's so limited. And he's a lot more than that, as any artist is. No artist wants to be stuck in a box, right? So I think that Lou Kahn got stuck in the monumental box for a long time. And yes, his architecture is monumental. And yes, he's interested in timeless things, but he's interested in a lot of other things too. And I think what's great about this show is it shows the enormous humanity of his architecture, the enormous struggle of his architecture, how hard he had to work to come up with great ideas. And to me, that's very contemporary in the sense that young artists, young architects, young filmmakers, old architects, old filmmakers, old people who are interested in self-expression, they can come here and see how an architect, just like any other artist, really struggles to find their voice, to express themselves. So his monumental approach to making architecture, which is not, let's not limit him that way, but there is a monumental aspect to his work. And it's there at the Roosevelt Memorial, and people like it. So I guess what that says is, it's contemporary too, right? It's not just of its time. It is truly timeless. It's a miracle that the Four Freedoms Park has been built. I mean, it's not a miracle actually, it's struggle, okay? And my father would often say, no building is a miracle, it's always a struggle. To build something after an architect is dead, it's very, very difficult, right? So I am just blown away by the people who were able to raise the money for it. Bill Vanden Heuvel is, a hero of mine personally, and I think a hero for New York, and for the world of architecture, for managing to raise $53 million in this world. That's really hard to do. Remember, at the time that my father designed it, the price for the memorial was $2.5 million, so it's a big change there. And the other hero there is Gina Polero. She is somebody who has tried as best as she can to get it the way my father would do it. Now, let's be honest. Any architect who's any good is going to change their mind and do things differently as the thing is being built. Would he have done it exactly the way it is now? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Of course not. That's unfair to the architect. Are there aspects of the memorial that are phenomenally good? Absolutely. The room at the end of the paths there, spectacular. Are there other aspects of it that I think maybe aren't quite up to snuff? Sure, yeah. But that's a longer discussion. I think that, the overall impression, the big moves of the Roosevelt Memorial are there. So I think the Roosevelt Memorial absolutely retains the idea that my father was after, absolutely. The building that I think would mean the most, would have meant the most, is the Verba Synagogue in Jerusalem. Because I think it was a building that meant a great deal to my father, certainly, but also to build in the old city of Jerusalem, with everything that's going on today, with the three religions, all of which share this holy place, all of which lay claim to this holy place. And his idea somehow was that by building almost a universal temple, yes, it's a synagogue, but there's something even more ancient than synagogue about it. It feels older than Egypt, or certainly as old as Egypt. So he was after something which was the idea that not to use religion to divide people, but to use the idea of the spiritual to unite people. And that's a building, I think, that more than any other could have achieved that. He's a guy who found his voice and his way of expressing himself through architecture. That's much bigger than any particular expression. It's just saying, wow, architecture is an art that if you fully embrace it and you give it your whole life, you can find ways of affecting humanity. Whether it's a house on the smallest, most intimate level, or whether it's a building for a whole government. And so the name of this show is very appropriate. It's The Power of Architecture.